Welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show with celebrity nutrition expert, fitness Hall of Famer, and 4-time New York Times bestselling author, JJ Virgin. JJ is a warrior mom whose knowledge and expertise have helped change hundreds of thousands of lives with over 3.5 million podcast downloads and appearances on Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, The Today Show, Rachel Ray, Larry King Live.
Whoa. This show is about you, not about me. I want to help you find practical, real-world ways to dial in your health and mindset so you can finally lose that weight and feel strong and energized. Stop settling for less than your personal best. It's time to find out how to look and feel better than ever. And I'll be right here with you the whole way. All right, welcome to the podcast. Today, we're going to start a revolution. Yes, we are. I have my longtime buddy, second time on the show, awesome pal, Ocean Robbins with me today. I just love this guy because he, not only is he the real deal, but he is on the ground, working hard, doing everything he can to help change the food supply and then also make it super actionable for all of us, really easy for us to know what to do. Like, what should we be eating? Where can we find the right types of foods? How can we save money doing that? And he has now put together, so I had to have him back. He's coming out with his book. Finally, he's got his book, which is the 31-Day Food Revolution. You're going to hear a little bit about how that came to be and the whole thing with the 31-day, because I had to know. But I'm not going to blow that surprise. And we've got a whole bunch of other cool things. He's doing a really fun challenge, and you're going to be able to learn all of that, get the cheat sheet for the podcast, all the cool notes and lists and all of that at jjvirgin.com/31day. And that's the number 31-day. Now, before we dive in, I want to give you a little bit more about Ocean, and then I'll be sharing another one of my favorites. Let me just tell you a bit about him if you don't already know. Ocean Robbins is, yes, he's a member of that family, Baskin-Robbins. You'll hear more about that. I'm not telling you anything more. Right now, he's the co-founder and CEO of the 500,000 plus member Food Revolution Network. And he's hosted more than 1 million people in online Food Revolution summits. He's facilitated and organized hundreds of live seminars, gatherings, and events for more than 200,000 thought leaders from 65 nations. Yes, he is just out there making a massive difference in the world. And again, he's the author of the just released 31-Day Food Revolution. Heal your body, feel great, and transform your world. All right. Welcome back, Ocean Robbins. I am so glad to have you back with us.
Well, I am glad to be back with you and everybody listening, JJ. What a privilege.
I know. Well, everybody loves you. In fact, everybody does love you. I've never heard one bad thing about you anywhere.
You haven't talked to my kids lately.
I haven't met those kids, so maybe that's it. But it is pretty amazing. Like, you are universally loved, and it's because you're just out there doing amazing things. Plus, you're super nice. And let's back it up, because maybe you got some of those genes from your awesome dad. You came from a family that created something that was a big part of my childhood. So, yeah, your grandfather founded Baskin-Robbins, and now you are doing the food revolution. And let's kind of fill in the gaps of what the heck happened here.
Yeah. They say an apple doesn't fall far from the tree, except when it does. You know, my grandpa founded 31 Flavors, and my dad, John, grew up with an ice cream cone-shaped swimming pool in the backyard and 31 flavors of ice cream in the freezer. He was groomed to one day join in running the company. But when he was in his early 20s, he said no. He walked away from a path that was practically paved with golden ice cream to, as we say in our family, follow his own rocky road. His uncle...
Okay, I know you've done this before.
Yeah, of course.
Perfect. But he literally walked away from everything, like...
He did. And, at the time, his uncle, Bert Baskin, was dying of heart disease. And My grandpa was on the path that would lead him soon enough to serious diabetes and weight issues and heart problems himself. And my dad took a look at the family product and he said, I don't want to spend my life selling a product that makes people sick. And he actually walked away from any access to the family wealth. He told his dad he didn't want a trust fund. And instead, he moved with my mom to a little island off the coast of Canada. And they built this one-room log cabin and they grew most of their own food and they practiced yoga and meditation. And they named their kid Ocean. That's where I came in, of course.
Okay, but the grandfather. Okay, so your dad's dad, when this was going on, what the heck was he saying?
He was pissed.
I mean, he said, nope, I'm not doing this. Gone off to a little cabin, right?
I mean, my grandpa built, the most successful ice cream company in the history of the world. He basically invented franchising. He was one of the most successful entrepreneurs in American history. And he offered to share his life's work with his only son. Most Americans would have given their right arm for this opportunity. And he gets the one kid in the country who says no.
No, I'm going to go live in a cabin in the woods.
Right. So my grandpa was mad and he stayed mad for a good long time until his own doctor hands him a copy of my dad's book when he's on death's door at the age of 71 and tells him to read it and follow his advice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which my grandpa did, and it changed his life, and he got 19 more healthy years.
Oh, I never knew that part of the story. I love that.
So at the very end, he's in his 90s, and my dad and I are with him on his deathbed for real this time. And he looks at my dad and he says, when you left Baskin-Robbins, I'll be honest, I thought you were crazy. And I might have been right, he said. But thank God some of us have lived long enough to learn a few new things. Mm. And he said, I know this might sound strange, but I'm proud of you. And he looked at both of us and he said, and I love you.
Oh.
And, this is a man who, his renegade son walked away from his life's work. Can you imagine how much courage it takes for a man of his level of business success to make that kind of a choice?
Yeah.
And to honor his son in that way? It was pretty incredible. And so, I say, for all the lure that habits can have, how hard it can be to make a change. If my grandpa could do it, if he could give up ice cream, which he did, then there's hope for the rest of us. And we know beyond the shadow of a doubt, and you know this too, that this stuff works. Healthy eating and healthy lifestyle are not just theories. They're proven.
And I got to say for everybody listening, I love hanging out with people who are positive, who are game changers and who walk the talk, and, getting to come to your house and seeing that you guys absolutely walk the talk and you're really entrenched in this idea that we can make this change out there. It starts with us and do this entire food revolution. But I'd love to hear just from you when you call it a food revolution, because you've built your whole brand around food revolution. You have your book, The 31-Day Food Revolution. What do you mean when you say a food revolution?
We live in a toxic food culture. I mean, all around us, we take something as normal. That's actually kind of crazy. I mean, we're surrounded by food-like products, by people who are eating, 150 pounds of added sugars in a year. The average American woman is eating her own weight in high fructose corn syrup every few years. And we live in a society that's full of chemicals and GMOs and hormones and pesticides and antibiotics in our food supply. And then we wonder why 2/3 of us are overweight or obese. So I'm calling for a food revolution because I think we need a fundamental change in the way that food is growing, in the way that it's processed, and in the way that we consume it. And a food revolution starts with you and me. This isn't a revolution we fight with knives and bombs. It's a revolution we fight with our knives and forks. And this is a revolution that doesn't lead to death and casualties. It leads to life and health and vitality for you and me. But we do have to fundamentally reclaim our food and our menus and our taste buds from a toxic status quo if we're going to survive. Because it's that dire right now. It is considered normal that we eat the standard American diet and then we get the standard American diseases. If you drive your car into a brick wall, The death certificate might say the cause of death was impalement from a brick wall, but you know and I know it was crappy driving. And similarly, heart disease and cancer and type 2 diabetes and all these other problems we're facing today are not causes of death. They are symptoms of a lifestyle that predictably leads to those types of outcomes. So I'm saying, let's change it. Let's detoxify our bodies. Let's nourish our bodies. Let's gather with kindred spirits and let's change our world. So I wrote 31-Day Food Revolution for a really simple reason, which is that we need to put this stuff into action. You know, cancer doesn't care how much you know, but it definitely does care what you eat. And I think that if all that was needed to transform the health of America was for us to know more, that we should eat broccoli and vegetables and eat less sugar and processed junk, we'd be fine. We wouldn't have an obesity epidemic. But for a lot of people, the thief of life is apathy. And I'm saying what we need is simple steps that we can put into action that help us get the results we want. So 31-Day Food Revolution is a journey you can take, simple, easy, step by step, to reclaim your health, your taste buds, your menu, and your planet.
I got to tell you, it's like, I don't know where this book has been, but thank God it's out now because we've been wanting this for a long time. I've been following you now for years. I'm so excited that you've got it out. And I'm super excited that you're also going to be giving everyone a free Food Revolution challenge. So stay tuned. And I just want to remind everybody, grab the show notes because we got a bunch of cool stuff in there because we're going to have resources about GMOs, about where you can get healthy food, but you'll be able to jump in the free Food Revolution challenge at jjvirgin.com/31 days. Actually, 31 days. It should be 31 day? 31 day. 31 day. Don't pluralize it. Now, I want to move back, though, because it was really interesting. You were with me this summer. We had Dr. Mark Hyman and Tim Ryan talking about food policy, talking about the problems with our food supply. And because part of this is we've got to be able to find healthy food. We've got to be able to find good, and this is a challenge. And when you start to look at what's happened with our food supply, what's going to happen with us trying to find this food now? Is this going to be something that most people aren't going to be able to afford? Like, where do we start now when we realize, okay, the biggest reason we have the increase in cancer and heart disease and diabetes and obesity is because what we're eating. It's obvious. And so we need to make a change, but the food at the stores are what's creating the problems. What do we do, Ocean?
It is a challenging thing. And obviously at a systemic level, we can see that we could save a ton of money with a shift in practice. Like disease treatment is 19% of our gross domestic product in the United States. We're spending literally trillions of dollars managing the symptoms of a toxic food culture. Over half of the medical spending that we incur as a nation could be prevented or reversed with improved diet and lifestyle. But at an individual level, it still sometimes feels like eating whole foods takes your whole paycheck. So part of what I look at in my book is not just what are the superfoods that are super expensive, but what are the superfoods that are super precisely because they can do the most good for the most people for the lowest possible price. So I love things like cabbage and carrots and onions and mushrooms and foods that are just packed with cancer-fighting, heart-boosting, brain-boosting nutrients and that don't cost an arm and a leg. I'm interested in helping folks to save a ton of money. The average American consumes about 500 excess calories per day. So the most expensive calories you ever consume are the ones you don't need in the first place, the ones that are actually just going to make you sick. The next most expensive ones are ones that are super highly processed, the ones that you're paying extra because they've gone through a bunch of machines and Mother Nature figured it out best. And sometimes small and simple is beautiful. And then from there, we look at how we can free up resources to be able to afford to go with things like organic foods, with the foods that matter the most. Not every single food is contaminated with pesticides, even if it's not organically grown, but some are. So in the book, I actually outline what are the most pesticide contaminated foods and the least pesticide contaminated foods. If you've got a limited budget, where do you want to apply it to protect yourself from the most toxic stuff?
Let's hear a couple of those right now. And I love that. What I love that I'm hearing the most is how practical this is. It is like a user's guide to food. of exactly what you need to do. I'd love to hear a couple of the places that we need to absolutely make sure we're eating organic.
Okay. Well, one is actually going to be strawberries. A lot of the berries are wonderful, wonderful health boosters, but they can get pretty contaminated with pesticides. You also want to go organic with tomatoes. The Environmental Working Group actually puts out a study every year, and they come up with what they call the Dirty Dozen, most pesticide-contaminated foods, and the Clean 15, least pesticide-contaminated foods. And here's a little tip. The Clean 15 are almost all foods that have shells that you don't eat. It's sort of obvious when you think about it. Avocados, watermelons, even pineapples and mangoes. If you don't eat the skin and you peel it off or you cut it off, then that's a certain protection from pesticide exposure. So if you're on a budget, those are some of the foods that you may want to choose to eat more conventionally grown. And things that you eat raw and fresh are particularly important to get organic. You also want to think about things like soy and corn, which are often genetically engineered. That means they're contaminated with glyphosate because we're spraying a lot of our genetically engineered crops with glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup. And this is an endocrine disruptor. It's linked to cancer, and it's not a friend to your health or mine.
I think glyphosate is one of the biggest threats we have going. I'm glad you're bringing it up. And it's like, I want this to be way out there at a much bigger scale. It's probably a big part of what gluten is really doing to us comes from the glyphosates that, have been like swept under the rug. What are some of the things that you're seeing besides corn and soy and wheat crops? Where else would we need to be worried about?
Well, when we're talking about glyphosate, the big ones are corn and soy. And then actually wheat is a big one, even though it's not genetically engineered on the mass market right now. Wheat is being sprayed with glyphosate as a desiccant to dry out the crop right before harvest. And so many researchers are thinking that up to half of our glyphosate exposure comes not from GMO crops, but from use as a desiccant because it's sprayed right before harvest. So there's a lot of it on the plant. And this is especially true with wheat. So it's possible that a lot of the reactions we're seeing to wheat right now aren't even just to wheat, but to what's being done to it and the glyphosate that we're consuming with it. So if you are going to eat wheat, and I know, JJ, you're probably not a fan of ever eating wheat, but if someone is going to, then it's especially important to go organic with it.
Now, you talked about GMOs a little bit. Let's just dig into that a little bit more about GMOs, what they are, and why we should be concerned there.
Absolutely. Well, some people think GMO means God move over, but it actually means genetically modified organism. And most of the GMOs, 99% of the GMO crops that are on the market today have been engineered for one or both of two traits. So one is that they are herbicide tolerant. This means you can spray them with glyphosate or 2,4-D, which is one of the active ingredients in Agent Orange, or other herbicides, and it'll kill the weeds, but the plants will not die, though they will absorb the weed killer. The other trait is that they are pesticide producers. These plants are literally pesticide factories. They produce insecticides in every cell of the plant, and then certain bugs, when they eat them, their stomachs split open and they die. This may theoretically make it sound like farmers are avoiding the need to spray with pesticides, which is a good thing, except that the plants are pesticides. So if you don't feel like eating weed killer or pesticide with every bite of food, then you probably want to go non-GMO. And everything organic is by definition non-GMO. So that's the simplest way to handle it. The non-GMO project also certifies a lot of brands as non-GMO, and non-GMO certified foods were over $20 billion in sales in the United States last year. So a lot of people care and are taking an interest in this. And of course, if something is both certified non-GMO and organic, that's all the better. But really, organic is the most important thing, because then you're avoiding not only glyphosate and the insecticides in every cell of the plant, but you're also avoiding the insecticides that might have been sprayed on the outside of the plant that are conventional.
So let's go back to the book. And again, I'm just very enthusiastic about this book. I've had a chance to, before it came out, review it. Very excited about it. I think this is one that everybody needs to have. It's really a resource manual. So I'd love you to share with tell people what's in it and, why they need to have it. And please brag a bit. I insist that you do.
I have to say, this is a big moment for me. I've been leading the food revolution charge for decades. My dad's a best-selling author who's written, almost a dozen books, and his books have sold millions of copies. And this is the first time I've written a book of my own, and it's a big moment for me, and I'm really excited about it. And I created this for a very specific reason, which is that I want to help everybody to put this into action. I'm sick of ivory tower theories. We have enough studies. We don't need more data to tell us that we need to do better. We need help putting it into action, cutting through the confusion, and getting the results we want. So the way I structured this book is it's 31 chapters. And each chapter ends with 3 action steps you can take for sort of beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels, depending on where you're at in your journey. And each chapter looks at a different area in the food world. And there's 4 parts to the book. So part 1 is detoxify. All the chapters in detoxify look at how you can get rid of the most unhealthy foods and the environmental factors that might be making you sick. And then in part 2, we look at nourish, how you can saturate your body with the micronutrients that you need to thrive. And then in part 3, we focus on gather. This is where you build your community and you surround yourself with good people who will be a good influence on you. And so you can be a positive influence on the people in your life. This is where I think a lot of popular diet books kind of miss out, because most of the programs out there act like we're lone wolves and you can act in isolation. But the truth is, we're all connected. We're very social creatures. So Gather looks at the social side of the food revolution and at how you can build your surroundings in such a way that you have the support and resources you need to thrive, whether it's how to navigate holidays or parties or tough situations where a lot of healthy eaters slip and fall into old habits, or how you can galvanize and organize people in your life. And then finally, part 4 is transform. And honestly, this is my favorite part of the book, because this is where we look at how you can be part of the solution in the world, how you can be an agent of change. And I want to share a little spoiler alert. It's a lot easier to change the world than you probably ever imagined. This really is a step-by-step journey from putting your own oxygen mask on first and then becoming mobilized so you can help others. Because ultimately, I'm sick and tired of having to fight an uphill battle and swim upstream just to do the right thing for myself and my family. I think all of us need support, need resources, need a community to back us, to hold us accountable, to guide us and inspire us. And we want to be that community for the people that we love. So this is a step-by-step action manual for living it, putting it into action, and then helping support the people you care about.
And I know you've done your research now for decades. So that's why I was like going, when's the book coming out? So this is one of those things that you've got to have because you put it all in there. So this is just fantastic. I'm super excited about it. I just got to ask, because I was like listening, I go, 31. Did you do 31 day because of 31 flavors? Like seriously, I have to ask.
Yes, thank you. I did. And I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, here's my promise. Everybody listening right now, 31. You put these 31 steps into action, and they will give you more pleasure than 31 flavors of ice cream. That's my commitment.
There you go. I love it. Okay, so here's the cool thing. And what I love the most is you've got such a commitment to help people get in action and then help other people get in action through them. And this free food revolution challenge is awesome. So if you go to jjvirgin.com, and I'm not going to say if, go to jjvirgin.com/31 day. That's 31 day. And you will be able to get that. We're going to put a couple other cool assets from the book I'm going to grab from you in there. And it is going to be amazing stuff that you're going to want to have. And you'll want to grab the book too, which you can get on Amazon. I'm sure we'll have more information on in the show notes. So you'll definitely want to get that. This is one of those resource manuals with great action steps you're going to want to have and you're going to want to share. So I'm super excited about that. Get some friends to join the Food Revolution Challenge with you. If you haven't had a chance to look at all of what Ocean's put together over the years, oh my gosh, you've just been such a great wealth of knowledge for me. And I just appreciate who you are and what you do so much. You are just a phenomenal agent of change out there in the world. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate and adore you.
Well, thank you, JJ, and right back at you. And I know everybody listening, you're already fans. You know how amazing JJ is and how brilliant she is and what a what an advocate she is for your health. And JJ, thanks so much for having me on here and for spreading the word and for joining me in this revolution, because we know there are so many lives at stake and the time is now to take action.
And we all need to get involved because it just takes a village. So there you go again, one more time, jjvirgin.com/31day. And Ocean, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. And remember, everybody, stay with me because after the break, I'm going to be answering the listeners' questions.
One of the number one reasons people have food intolerances is due to a leaky gut. But when taking out the offending foods and replacing them with healing foods isn't working fast enough for you, what can you do? This is where JJ Virgin's Leaky Gut Support Formula comes in. This blend of therapeutic nutrients promotes proper intestinal function, helps heal ulcers, reduces inflammation, and supports regular bowel function. If you're struggling with gas and bloating, food intolerance, or any other digestive unrest, visit jjvirgin.com/products today and give JJ's Leaky Gut Support a try.
Welcome back. This is the time when I answer a listener's question. And you know, I sniff around and try to find the best question for the podcast that relates to what we're talking about. So this was a perfect one. Came up on my Facebook Live the other day. And honestly, I get this question a lot. And this one was from Melanie. And Melanie said, okay, JJ, I get that I'm supposed to be eating better, but I just can't afford it. How do I eat healthy on a budget? Now, first thing, Melanie, yay for you for asking how, not saying I can't do it because I can't afford it. Remember, life is so much about asking the right questions. So how can I eat healthy on a budget? It's the right question. Yay. And what we'll do is we'll link in the show notes because I've written a blog about how to eat healthy on a budget because this is like such a big deal to me. It was interesting. I went to the store early on to prove a point, and I got a grocery cart full of products I would use, food I would use on the Virgin diet, sugar impact diet. And then I got foods of what I would think a normal family of four would buy trying to eat reasonably healthy. And I'll be honest, I didn't do it. I could have stacked the deck, right? And bought things on I could have just skipped getting grass-fed beef or wild salmon and just tried to make things really inexpensive. But I didn't. I got organic produce and nuts and wild salmon and all sorts of stuff on my side. And then I bought the other cart. And I fully expected them to be about even, which I would have been totally cool with. But even adding in my shakes and bars, it was $36 cheaper to eat the way that I eat. Now, I hadn't heard that before, that Ocean said that the average person in America is eating 500 more calories a day than they need to, which that's the first easy savings. But let's face it, a lot of the foods, and he shared some of these already, a lot of these non-starchy vegetables and then wild rice and legumes and squashes, these are inexpensive. And this is where we really want to be filling up anyway. So that is what's super exciting, is so many of the foods you need to be eating most of, broccoli and cabbage and salad greens and peppers and cauliflower. I'm totally addicted to cauliflower rice and wild rice and lentils. These are not expensive. These are inexpensive. And these should be the bulk of your diet. So we'll include that link to my blog on how to eat healthy in the show notes. And you'll also have in the show notes some really good lists on foods that you should be focusing on. And of course, you'll want to get Ocean's 31-Day Food Revolution book because you're going to get a lot of that in there as well. What you're going to find is that actually you're going to save money doing this and feel better and have better health in life. And that's the bigger issue here, is even if it costs the same to eat healthy, or even if it costs a little bit more, you would save money in the long term anyway because of all the savings on the medical bills. And what's your quality of life worth? Well, that's priceless, right? So thank you for that, Melanie. I always love when that question comes up because that is a myth I want to bust every single time. Now, the other big thank you is to Kimberly Ann. And Kimberly Ann 117 from the USA says, I'm back with JJ, 5-star review. She said, I was listening to JJ's advice, but stopped shortly after her son's accident because I was just overwhelmed with all the information I was getting from so many sources, and I stopped following everyone. Recently, I've rediscovered JJ's podcast, and I'm like, why did I ever stop listening to her? Her advice is so easy to follow, backed by science and common sense. I've shared her with my ex, friends, and coworkers. So glad I rediscovered her, and you'll be glad you started listening. Smiley face, smiley face, smiley face. Kimberly Ann, thank you so much for that. I super appreciate it. And I know there's a lot of stuff out there, and that's why I really appreciate the reviews and you sharing this with your friends and subscribing, because you go and you look at, which should I listen to? Well, you're going to listen to what your friend recommends. That's the bottom line. So we're in here pushing these out, and my big goal is to help 1 billion people get healthy. I cannot do that by myself. So I really appreciate you sharing this and, of course, subscribing and leaving those reviews. And I look forward to highlighting you next time. And again, thank you so much, Kimberly Ann, for your kind words. All righty. I'll see you next week.
That's all for this episode of the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, which marks another step towards a healthier body and mind. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and we'll talk to you next week.